All right, so unfortunately, I haven't been able to get Tailwind to work the way that I wanted to, but I'm just going to work around that a little bit by just using a CDN. You should be able to just pass in like a flag and then say Tailwind, and then I don't know. I don't really feel like dealing with it right now. This is just a tutorial; it's not a production application. So we're just going to run Rails New Game Arena as we've done in the past. And you don't have to follow all of these steps all over again, but I'm going to go ahead and do that for the sake of streamlining and simplifying like all the actual non-informative steps of the process. And then once the project has been generated, you can CD into it, and we'll clear that out. Open it in code. All these steps are the same as the last tutorial. What we're going to do is we're going to do Rails generate. You can type out generate if you want, or G, scaffold, room, name, string. So it's going to be a room model with a name attribute of string data type. That will create all the views and controllers, and it will create a migration file, which has not been run yet. So we need to add unique true here, and then we're going to run Rails DB migrate. And then after that has been migrated, I want to go to the routes. So we're going to uncomment. And then if we run the Rails server, hopefully everything will be working as expected. We have our rooms index now on the home page. The next thing I want to do is we'll go to the Tailwind website. They have the script here. We'll copy this right here. And we're going to go to our application.html. This is the outer layer that I've talked about in the past. And we just paste that in there. Hopefully that will work for us now. So if I go to, index.html, so this is that rooms index file. If I add some CSS here, hold up, class is going to be text blue 400 maybe. There we go. Okay, this is working as I expected. And if you don't want to follow with me and redo all of this, this is the only step you really needed to do, was go into application.html and then paste in the script here. And that should give you access to Tailwind within the application. So the first thing I wanted to do with Turbo Frames was basically to replace all of this content whenever I click on New Room with the form. So we can do that by putting all this stuff in a turbo frame. So we're going to have to have an end block there, and then we're going to have a block here. Make sure that there's an equal sign, and then turbo frame tag. And then we're going to give it some name. It doesn't really matter what the name is, but we'll call it rooms for now, and indent that. And remember, if our link is outside of the turbo frame that we're replacing, what we need to do is we need to add in this data, and then turbo frame, and then we'll call that rooms. Remember that this has to be the same ID as this up here. And then likewise, one thing I always forget, we have to have that a do here. So this has to be turbo frame tag rooms do, and then there has to be the end block. So let me just copy and paste that up here because we're going to be replicating it. All right, hopefully that will work. So now if I click on refresh and I click on new room, all right, cool. We see the form. Because, it's Tailwind, and I haven't really done any styling on this. It doesn't look very good, but it works, pretty much the same as I expected it to. Although one thing that's kind of dumb is that I click on new room, right? It shows me the form for the new room, and I still have like a button to create a new room, which, kind of defeats the whole purpose of this right here. So it was kind of just a contrived example to give you an idea of how to do this type of thing where, you want your link outside of, the content that's being replaced. But here we don't really need that, right? So we can just get rid of that, and we'll just put the link inside of the turbo frame. And then now if I refresh it, this is the home page. If I click on new room, we replace that with the form. If I click back to rooms, we go back to the home page. So everything is working as we expected. As long as the link that you're clicking, is inside of the turbo frame itself, then you don't have to have that data turbo frame. But another thing I wanted to do was have a turbo frame here, where every time the person clicks on the link to, show the room, I'm going to move this render room also inside of that turbo frame. And then we have to give it some ID. It doesn't really matter what it is. I'm just going to call it edit room for now. Or maybe we'll call it room controls because there's edit and delete room. But when the user clicks on this link, then they're going to go to room, which if you watched the last video, we know goes to show.html.erb. And then again, we have to have another turbo frame. And there's two ways we could do it. We could do it like this, turbo frame ID room controls, and then, close out the tag. And then hopefully if I go back here, if I click on refresh, show the room, we see edit room, back to rooms, And then here, if I click on show the room, same thing, edit back. If I click back to rooms, that'll just, close that out. There is a little bit of a problem there. I think we'll have to figure out what happened there. But when I clicked on that, it seemed to replace room number 2 with my room, which I think is a TurboFrame thing where we're basically receiving an HTML for the index and it's kind of shoving it in there. Not sure why that's happening, but we'll deal with it later. The only thing I really wanted to kind of cover here was being able to delete something. So on the room model, after destroy commit, we'll have broadcast remove to, and then we have to have an ID. I'm just going to call it room list for now. Again, you can call it whatever you want to, but if I go into index.html, we're going to need a TurboFrame with the ID of room list. I'll just close that out here. Keeping in mind that the TurboFrame like this is pretty much the exact same as a TurboFrame like this. They're just a different syntax. ID here is going to be room list. ID here is going to be rooms. We do need to have somewhere here TurboStream from. I'm going to call that room list. And then if we go to the rooms controller, we can go to where it calls destroy, and we're going to say format.turbostream render turbostream. Actually, this is going to be dot remove, and then at room. And let's look to see if that's actually functioning. So if I click on room number 2, show, and then destroy the room. This is the problem before, I think, when I wasn't running the Redis server. So if you're running into that problem, cd into the game arena, that'll be Redis server here. And then hopefully that will work now. If I go back to localhost, show this room, destroy this room. I did have a typo here, so TurboStream. Try this again. These items are still getting deleted from the database because it's still hitting that controller. Let me go back to the home page, create one more room. Doesn't really matter what they're called. Go back to the home page. All right, show this room. Destroy this room. Bam, the room is gone. Show this room. Destroy this room. Bam, the room is gone. Now the problem being that, it's not getting rid of this entire, HTML part. So all we have to do to fix that is go into show.html. Let's go into room.html. Grab this div ID. Get rid of that tag. And then on show.html, we can just wrap that with this new DOM ID. Make sure that that's inside the TurboFrame. And again, recalling that this is an instance variable, so this is going to be an @. Try one more time. We're just going to create a room. And then if I show the room, destroy the room, bam, it's gone. And then, do one more time, and it's gone. All right, that is cool. That is what we expected. There are still things that we need to work out. But sort of the 3 things that we've kind of accomplished is now we can render the form here without actually, redirecting to a new page. And then we can, create a room. We're going to want that to take us back to the index, but we'll get to that later. For now, we can just go there manually. And then if we click on show this room, it'll just, render that HTML in place of, where the old HTML was inside of that TurboFrame, which is, this room controls TurboFrame. And then if we click on destroy, the TurboStream works. It basically removes everything inside of the element with this, DOM ID right here. So it removes all of this stuff from the DOM. And that's pretty much just a recap of all the stuff that we did in the last tutorial, but much quicker. I'll keep trying to build on this and make the functionality cleaner. I might try to add a little bit of styling because this is a little bit hard to look at for me. But again, try not to get too carried away with that. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will keep making more.